Mohammed asked, how's your reaction when MKBHD announced his panels app and why he's breaking his own rules regarding user privacy and fairness, not to mention AI, arts, ads, and especially that yearly subscription? I'm gonna condense that to what are our thoughts on the panels app. We talked about it quite a bit actually in the Signal group. Because yeah, it's the new thing and everybody's talking about it, but also because we're creators too, and so we want to see like, okay, like when other creators release things, like what was obviously wrong with that, what was good with that. And this one, there's not a lot of good. I don't think we would have had to analyze the situation to not make similar mistakes. My thoughts are, yeah, it's not great. I mean, it's got ads in it, and so that's why you see those privacy labels, and it's really a bummer because that's not even data collection that's inherent to MKBHD and whoever's working on the app, but that's because of the ads that are built into it. So there's that. And then there's the annual subscription, which seems really high for end users and people like ourselves. But yeah, I think it's my take, and Jonah actually has a really good take. So you should really stick around for Jonah's take because he brought up a really good point that I hadn't considered here. I think that if any other YouTuber released this app, no one would have cared. Honestly, I think MKBHD has such a spotless reputation that he does the smallest thing wrong, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, he did something wrong." This is like a big, like noteworthy event. And I feel the same way about politicians. Like some politicians can straight up say like crazy things on explicit forums. I don't know if anyone's keeping up with that. And I feel like they're still relevant because like their history is just so insane and people don't have any higher expectations for them. But people who have a spotless history have higher expectations of them. And then when they make even a small mistake, it's almost seen as more newsworthy. So I think that kind of happened to MKBHD here. Honestly, no one forced, like, he's still putting out the content. He's still doing what he was known for. No one has to download the app. And I think that it doesn't deserve the amount of hate it's getting, even though it's a kind of a garbage product, in my opinion. But Jonah has a really interesting take, actually, that I hadn't thought about.
Well, well, I kind of have two thoughts about this. You might have to remind me of what my interesting take is now that you hyped it up. No, but I'll share what I think. First of all, I think he's in a weird position as like a content creator where like I think he overestimated like the amount of people who want an app like this in the first place. There's like it makes a lot of sense from like his perspective, I think, to like he's advertising these wallpapers on his channel, for example, if he can somehow monetize that and also like give a cut to the artist who made it as well. That's kind of like a win-win situation for his channel, for the artists who make these wallpapers, that kind of thing. And I think that like I think it's just not the reality of what most people do with like the wallpapers on their phone. It's a very like content creator brained way of thinking about wallpapers, for example. And I think that like well he might be concerned about like which wallpapers are on his device and changing them constantly and having them good in videos and having people like download them. I think that the reality is most people just search Google for like HD wallpapers and download like whatever they find for free and they don't really care about the artist or who made it or that kind of thing. So like the demand just isn't really there from a lot of people. So I think that the way that he launched it was weird for sure. But the other thing I think about like this whole it's kind of more to do with like tech YouTubers in general. It's really a case of these, especially like consumer electronics reviewers like MKBHD, for example, they are almost more like fashion reviewers than they are like tech reviewers. They're not diving deep into a lot of the technology that they cover on their channel all the time. They are um, like mainly thinking about like how tech looks, how they can like benefit from it in their day-to-day lives. They're not really thinking about like the long-term consequences of all the things that they're using. Like they're using AI assistants and AI pins or whatever, for example, and trying to like evaluate all of this from a usability perspective, which is one thing, but these channels don't dive into like
The critical
how all that
aspects.
works, the critical aspects of it,
Yeah.
right? And it's really just like it's really just focused on the experience and the here and now, and not how technology works and not how it's changing our society in any way. They're not focused on that, and I think it's why these channels are so much bigger than like a channel like Techlore, for example, because there's a lot more mass appeal in just like reviewing it. But they're just using these electronics and getting the latest devices and showing off flashy new features as like basically a fashion statement more than like from a technologist point of view. And I think that MKBHD has been like doing this for so long and has been like really well supported by his audience for creating these videos that I think that that is just his main focus now, and he really never got to go on this like path of diving deeper into the technology that he uses, or like learning how computer science works, or learning how all this thing works, like the nitty gritty. So he might not have like the right perspective when it comes to more in-depth things like this, and like developing your own app, for example. That takes a lot of work, and I think that he just wasn't very well prepared for the whole thing. Is
Yeah. I mean, we've
kind of
talked
what I think.
a lot about this in the past of like the concept of what reviews are. And I think one of the most common criticisms that we get on our reviews on Techlore is that they were too critical. But I feel like they reflect my experience, and I tend to be more critical in the reviews because I'm not just evaluating the experience. If it was just about experience, you know, and there are many VPNs out there, for example, that have fantastic experiences. But what's critical is talking about, hey, here's actually the behind the scenes difference between this VPN and this VPN if you're somebody who cares more about where your data is going. Or here's where this one is better than this one, and having a little bit of nuance. I do think, I actually really, for the record, I like MKBHD's content. And he's one of the few YouTube channels on my RSS feed alongside Judge Judy, just so you know how quality my RSS feed is. But I really like his reviews. As somebody who doesn't care much about technology, for me, they're like a quick summary of like what's new for things I just don't really care much about. Like, I don't really care about the new Pixel Fold. I think folding phones are stupid in general, and they don't make any sense, and you get a little bit of sand in the middle, and it's done. And that's just crazy to me. And they're so expensive, and they're just not even geared towards the regular person. And I agree that, like, a lot of these devices are just kind of fashion statements almost in a way. But I learned from them, and I think they're valuable. I just don't think they're critical enough about the technologies. But that's also not what the channel is. I think that MKBHD, or Marquez himself, has a lot more thoughts on the tech that he just isn't able to share with the channel that he's built and developed. And the reason I say that is because in the Pixel review, he kept going back to the sentence, which was along the lines of, what even is a photo anymore? Because of all the new AI features that Google announced that allow you to literally take a subject out of a picture and put it into a totally different background and swap people's faces so that everybody's smiling in the photo. It's kind of creepy stuff. And he really just covered the tech, but then he ends it by saying, what is a photo anymore? And I feel like that's one of the few moments where like he's trying to be critical, but he knows he can't be too critical because that's not what his channel's about. So I think if you were to ask him, his same thing with Cybertruck. I feel like he's also super critical of the Cybertruck, but he just can't really say it because he's there to cover the experience. But he has a lot of like small sentences he says. So yeah, for the record, the enlightening thing that you said, I feel, which kind of went to your first point, was he kind of, as a content creator, this makes sense because you have to use like licensed things for your content. And so that's something that he could have geared this more towards other content creators, because like a $60 a year subscription for cool wallpapers to use in all your videos as a content creator isn't as bad of a selling point as what he used as a selling point.
Right.
But that was what you said to me that I didn't consider.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. I think that he didn't consider it. I think that he just assumed that there was a market that wasn't there, because I think that he has probably been doing that kind of thing for so long, thinking about like the content creation side of things, that like he does, like maybe he overlooked that most people really do not care about copyright and that sort of thing, and they're just going to do whatever they want.
Yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this Techlore clip. This is actually a highlight from our main channel, Techlore, where we talk about digital rights, privacy, security, and how you can have a better relationship with technology. So if you want the full-length experience, definitely check out our main channel, Techlore. We'll leave a link somewhere on the screen, wherever our editor puts it, and you can probably check it down in the description as well.